Welcome back to Kdramas Decoded, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode of your favorite K-drama. Episode 6 begins with a shocking murder at the Rosebud Hotel. A woman named Oh Min-young, who works on the hotel's concierge team, is found dead. The investigators quickly determine that she has been dead for at least 12 hours and that she was stabbed multiple times. However, something about the crime scene immediately feels strange. Despite the number of stab wounds, there is surprisingly little blood. The team starts questioning the hotel employees and soon learns that Min-young had attracted quite a bit of attention from the men around her. One particular guest, Kang Hyun, has been staying in room 701 for nearly 3 weeks. Apparently, he repeatedly called Min-young to his room under various excuses. When Hyun is questioned, he openly admits that he fell for Min-young at first sight. Unfortunately for him, Min-young rejected him, explaining that she already had a boyfriend. This makes Hyun an obvious suspect, especially when the police discover that he fled the hotel after the murder. The team eventually tracks him down and arrests him on suspicion of Min-young's murder. During interrogation, Hyun insists that he wasn't running because he was guilty. He claims he was simply on his way home. However, the investigators establish that he had been drinking after Min-young rejected him. Things become even worse when forensic evidence is discovered in room 701. There are bloodstains on the floor and signs that someone had attempted to clean them up. The police also discover that a steak knife, similar to the one used in the hotel's restaurant, could have been the murder weapon. At first, everything seems to point toward Hyun. But then the investigators notice a major problem. The amount of blood found in room 701 doesn't match what they would expect if Min-young had actually been murdered there. This means that she may have been killed somewhere else, and her body was later moved into the room. The team begins reviewing the hotel's CCTV footage and reconstructing everyone's movements around the estimated time of death, which they place between 8 and 9 p.m. Meanwhile, the police learn that another important person connected to Min-young is the hotel's wealthy representative, Jin I Soo. Forensic analysis reveals that Min-young had repeatedly contacted him and that he had transferred 100 million won to her twice. That immediately raises suspicion. But before the police can question him properly, they discover that Jin I Soo has already left the country. The team rushes to the airport and manages to intercept him. During questioning, Jin finally admits that he met Min-young on the night of her death. He claims he met her because of his wife and insists that he left her alive. But the detectives aren't convinced. They reveal that Min-young had been blackmailing him. Jin had already paid her 200 million won, supposedly as a settlement. The investigators suspect that Min-young knew something damaging about him and had been using that information to keep demanding money. Eventually, Jin admits that he had been hiding a serious secret. He had fallen in love with one of his employees, Jin, despite already being married. Their relationship had begun secretly, but Min-young discovered the affair and started blackmailing him. Jin sent her 100 million won, but when she demanded more, he became increasingly desperate. On the night of the murder, Min-young summoned him again. However, Jin insists that when he left her, she was still alive. He believes someone deliberately moved her body into room 709 to make it look as though he had killed her. This revelation introduces a completely different possibility. The police start investigating Jin. They discover that Jin had been in the representative's office around the time of the murder. More importantly, CCTV shows her receiving a phone call at around 8:05 p.m. and then leaving the office. The detectives reconstruct her movements and realize that Jin had briefly disappeared from the cameras. She had enough time to retrieve a radio and a master key. That becomes extremely suspicious because a person with a master key could access the hotel rooms without leaving obvious evidence. The investigators believe Jin may have deliberately lured Min-young to room 701 and killed her there. But another problem appears. There is only an 8-minute gap in Jin's movements. Could she really kill Min-young, move her body, clean the room and leave without being caught in just 8 minutes? The detectives conclude that it would be almost impossible. Then they realize something even more important. Why would Jin move the body at all? If her goal was simply to kill Min-young, there would be no reason to relocate her. Unless someone else was involved. The detectives realize that whoever moved Min-young's body must have had access to almost every room in the hotel, known about the CCTV problem, and been able to move around without attracting suspicion. There is only one group of people who fits that description: the hotel room maids. The investigation immediately turns toward the housekeeping staff. And then the biggest twist of the episode arrives. The police discover that one of the room maids is Na Yeonhong, Jin's mother. The detectives realize that Yeonhong may have discovered that her daughter had committed the murder and then helped cover it up. They bring her in for questioning. Rather than immediately accusing her, the detective takes a gentler approach. He talks about his own mother and explains that he understands why a parent might go to extraordinary lengths to protect their child. Yeonhong eventually breaks down. She admits that her daughter killed Min-young. But she insists that she was the one who dealt with the aftermath. She had moved the body and cleaned up the evidence to protect Jin. The detectives arrest Yeonhong for Min-young's murder, but Jin is devastated when she discovers what her mother has done. She rushes to her mother and repeatedly insists that she was the one who killed Min-young. The emotional confrontation makes it clear just how far both women were willing to go for each other. Eventually, Jin confesses the truth. She admits that she deliberately called Min-young to room 701 because she wanted to confront her over the blackmail and the affair. Min-young had been demanding more and more money, treating the secret relationship as the perfect opportunity to make a fortune. Jin eventually lost control and killed her. But Yeonhong then arrived and realized what had happened. Instead of turning her daughter in, she decided to protect her. She moved Min-young's body, cleaned the blood from the room, and attempted to create a situation where the blame could fall on someone else. This explains why the original crime scene didn't make sense. It also explains how the body could be moved without attracting attention, and why there was so little blood in room 709. With the truth finally uncovered, both Jin and her mother are held accountable. Meanwhile, Kang Chun-sik and Yeom Yi-seop are cleared of the murder. But the investigation reveals something unexpected about Min-young herself. She wasn't simply the innocent hotel employee everyone believed her to be. She had been blackmailing both Yeom Yi-seop and Jin, using their secret relationship to extract enormous amounts of money. Her own actions ultimately contributed to the situation that led to her death. After the case is solved, the detectives finally have a chance to relax. They gather for food and drinks, joking about everything that happened. The mood becomes much lighter when they start teasing one of their colleagues about a possible office romance. It turns out that two members of the team have secretly started dating. Everyone is shocked that they managed to keep it hidden, especially because their colleagues apparently noticed the suspicious behavior long before they admitted anything. The episode then gives us a quieter moment involving Jin I Soo. He has been struggling with sudden episodes of breathlessness and feeling trapped, particularly in enclosed spaces such as elevators. He finally agrees to visit a psychiatrist. However, Hee-soo immediately makes it clear that he doesn't like psychiatrists because of what happened to him in the past. He previously encountered a psychiatrist who used hypnosis on him and was later revealed to have committed murder. So Hee-soo has no interest in talking about his feelings. The psychiatrist explains that his symptoms could be connected to the traumatic events he has experienced, including the recent bombing incident. Hee-soo is told that confronting and talking through his emotions could help him recover. But he isn't convinced. For now, he would much rather receive medication and leave. The episode ends by setting up the next case. A magician named Park Jae dies during a performance after a fire breaks out. At first, the death appears to be an accident. The escape equipment supposedly worked correctly, but investigators discover something suspicious. Someone had apparently placed a dangerous substance inside the magician's coffin before the performance. That means the fire was not simply an accident. It was murder. The investigation also reveals that Park Jae has a twin, Park Yi-young, and there may be connections between the magician and organized crime. As the detectives dig deeper, they discover that someone may have known the victim was going to die. One investigator remains particularly focused on Yoo Seong-won, a person from an earlier case whom he believes is still dangerous. Despite being warned that his obsession could damage his career, he refuses to let it go. He firmly believes that Yoo Seong-won will kill again, and he intends to stop him. So Episode 6 ultimately gives us two very different stories. The Rosebud Hotel murder turns out to be the tragic result of an affair, blackmail, and a mother's desperate attempt to protect her daughter. But just as that case is finally closed, a much more mysterious murder involving a magician begins. And judging from the final moments, the investigation into Yoo Seong-won is far from over.